Good morning, Sanjay ji. How are you doing? We are back
Well,
with episode 6 of the Indus Blueprint.
good morning, good afternoon, Chandan. Always a pleasure to join in. I think the sun is shining bright. It's India and EU season, so couldn't have been better. Let's
Good.
get
Let's
going.
Let's get going. I'll give a quick introduction for Sanjay ji. Sanjay ji is a career executive and a leader and a business analyst with, I would say, infinite knowledge age that I tapped
Thank
into a
you.
few months ago on X. We've been talking, we've been doing podcasts. This is now our sixth episode. I am an entrepreneur and an investor based in Warsaw, Poland. We love to talk about our commerce and trade flow between Europe and India. And so the first thing that we would like to touch on is resilience, 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 resilience. Wow. What a week to start off.
Absolutely. You couldn't have put a much brighter start. As we always say, we should always look at the abundance and what is positivity. And I think nothing could have been some of the numbers which came in last week were just representative. And in fact, the latest one which I saw was, and I shared on X also, was the direct and indirect taxes. Collection in India, and they went up by almost 15%. Different segments went up from up to 22%, and all the segments, direct, indirect, corporate advanced tax, even the STT, which everyone keeps bashing that markets are not doing well, even that is pulling it up. So I think there's the bigger growth story which is coming in, and we will see the follow on if right at the start of the financial year we see this as a starting point, then I think that's a great point. And if that is also supported by well-grounded facts, like earlier this week, we saw that even the manufacturing exports were all for last month were almost at a 6-month high. And that is, we have
Wow.
seen the disruptions, we have seen the supply chain breaking down, and still almost 45 billion, over $45 billion of goods exports was almost 18% growth and a 6-month high. So I think that's where I think the mindset of how everyone is operating is, I think, has fundamentally changed. And I think that is a big shift which will really support things.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's we are seeing a lot of proactive planning, and this is translating into actual numbers in reality. The numbers don't lie. You are seeing this with exports, and that's translating into taxes. That's translating into revenue. That's translating into growth. We can bore a lot of people with all kinds of amazing numbers, both from Europe and from India. But what's the point of that? The idea is that because of this proactive planning, both in Europe and in India, we are seeing that manufacturing numbers are higher, export numbers are higher, tax revenue collection is higher, and that is being reinvested through that proactive
Absolutely.
planning. It's like we talked about. It is the flywheel and the cycle which keeps it's moving forward. And we saw this is abundantly being I think reflected in the INR as well.
Yes, absolutely. So finally, I think all the FCNR, the as RBI announced the policy, now the policy is in action. So you're seeing FCNR deposits picking up. You're seeing flexibility being offered by RBI that even some of the existing deposits can actually be broken up and again be reinvested. So that's working well. And in fact, initially, all of us, we thought the target may be about 30 to 50 billion. Now, in fact, everyone is looking at, can we look at 50 billion is given, how much more we can go. So I think as we speak of that 2x is possibly the new x, everyone is, looking at it. And that's where I think the confidence is coming, possibly the volatility is now increasingly going to be possibly a common factor. But what do you do with the volatility to ensure your business grows? And in fact, one of the interesting stories, besides the number, was this mindset when we saw from the Indian companies. to already start preparing even before the war declaration was announced. So you saw all the biggest of the companies, right from Adani Wilmar to Parle Agro to Dabur to even all the other guys, just ready at near operating at near full capacity to say we know on when things will stabilize and the transit will open. We don't have to prepare for that, but we have to be ready for that. And there'll be a reconstruction. So as we also discussed, JCB did a has been doing this is India is their big home market, and they are again preparing for it in a big way. So I think uh, all of the qualitative, the quantitative, and the foundational mindset is all coming in.
And we saw the exact same mindset being played out over here, whether it was Renault, whether it was Siemens, Volkswagen Group. They were all ready with their game plan. They knew the volatility it could occur at any time. They were focused and they made sure that when the when we were exposed to this volatility, immediately there was a lot of collaboration. I was really happy to see this collaboration with India, and then we have the G7 summit where we have
True.
Prime Minister Modi ji visiting France along with our great startup founders. What an incredible event!
Absolutely. And I think there was so much of news flow coming in. I think sometimes it was a bit overwhelming. So you had PM Modi for the first time visiting Slovakia, first ever PM from India to visit Slovakia.
Correct.
And then like he was moving at a breakneck pace as only he can. So he was in Nice and then doing Bharat Innovates inauguration with as you said 120 plus startups being showcased with President Macron. Then he moved on and then he was there in Evian and there was intense discussion in G7 on supply chain diversity, minerals, tons of things coming out. And I think towards the end, I think personally, I think for India, EU, UK corridor, one of the highs was, I think, all the last mile glitches which were there. I think PM Stammer and PM Modi really gave the direction to their teams to get it out of the way. And
Right.
they announced 15 July, India UK goes up. So I think that was a
Yeah.
lot of ground covered in 3 to 4 days. So how did the EU folks and the EU businesses saw this rapid pace movements? Would love to hear
You,
that.
this is exactly what you just inferred. The last obstacles that were there, the bureaucratic little glitches that were there, they were all ironed out very quickly in the space of, metaphorically speaking, in the space of an hour's meeting. And this was very good to see. And immediately you saw the reaction from the EU as well. They said, "Wow, UK is going closer to India. There is a clear vision to bring UK back into the European in family. There's a clear vision in that if UK can finalize and get this deal going, Europe can also do this quickly. The deal can be ratified.
Yes,
All the little obstacles that are meaningless. These are small. Yes, they are critical things that still need to be ironed out, but these are very small in the grand scheme of things. And the minute you saw 120 Indian startups full of energy, full of beautiful new technology land here, you had Viva Tech at the same time, which is still happening, where you had this energy level which was overwhelming in all of the European in media. They said, yes, it's great. We have the mother of all deals, but we're not waiting for the mother of all deals. The bureaucrats will figure this out. The administration will figure this out, but it's full full throttle ahead, no stopping. Let's get moving. You had so many little nuances. You had, I think, 250 billion worth of deals at Bharat Innovates. Bharat Innovates was a grand success. I wish the media had played it out more. It was a little sad to see that there was no buzz, but it was. If you were there, from what I know, it was a grand success in terms of contacts between businesses to businesses, between raising capital for startups in Europe as well as in India, and great signals which occurred. You are seeing, like you said, you are seeing this proactive planning not only with businesses but also with the government, and the right signals being given. So I'll give you a small example. The Polish
Sure.
government just announced that they will invest 11 million euros into an AI startup. Now the amount is not great. It's just 11 million euros, but the signal is immense that they are planning for this is AI technology, that they are planning for the future. That it's no longer just a reactive, everything is now proactive. And it would be great to see the private sector really go for this enthusiastically. There is great government support, there is great administrative support. It would be really good for the private sector to join the party. It would be great to see the media join the party as well.
Absolutely. In fact, some of my friends have been showcasing their startups at both Bharat Innovates and also they are currently there in Vivatech. And they said the fact that when PM Modi and President Macron came in, they actually spent significant time in their walkthrough in trying to understand. So it was not just a photo op, they were actually trying to see. And when that goes, that's a message, as you said, to the businesses and the larger community to really engage, not just look at a investment perspective, but look at a business perspective, look at the collaboration, look at what else we can do. And like from here in India, the next day when I opened the paper, uh, I found it pleasant and at the same time great that side by side, on one side we had uh, India UK to go live on 15 July. On the other side, you had PM Modi in the center with of the picture with VDL and Mr. Costa saying UK has committed, sorry, EU has committed that by end of the year, India EU is happening. And I think that's a great message that they know someone is ahead, but we'll run faster and we'll do it. And in the end, everyone wins.
Yeah, the idea is that there is so much to go around that everybody deserves to win and everybody can win by collaborating. I love to use this phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats. If if
Absolutely.
if it, there is no shortage of resources, like PM Modi said, there is no shortage of abundance, there is no shortage of resources. There is just a shortage of trust. And once we are able to capture that trust, which we now have between India and Europe, there is abundance, there is jobs. And yes, there is also urgency because now we are seeing that there is urgency to get tech sovereignty. Yes, that
Absolutely.
that we have to work together to establish this tech sovereignty to stop dependence on those that we quite frankly cannot trust.
Absolutely. In fact, I think you hit the point on the head that one day you have access to the world's frontier AI and you're working on it, and next day the access gets turned off because you are based in another country. So you can't do that. And I think uh, just as Anthropic's lockout happened, the good thing was we talking about speed that within 24 hours the deal was already in the cooking, but it formally got announced that actually Sarvam AI, which is India's foundational LLM, raised close to 300 million plus dollars at 1.5 billion valuation. So again, the fact that yeah, there will be a challenges, but we be ready and we make it. And I think the very interesting aspect I saw in that particular deal is many times. they say India is complex, it has so many different dialects. How will it will really be used? So Sarvam very intelligently has converted the fact that you have diverse language, diverse nuances into its USP. And therefore, if they are already training their foundational models around all of that, then at the end, what will be available will be a much more stronger model than it is. So as we say, every adversity is actually an opportunity. I think that was a phenomenal pivot we saw there.
Yeah, India is in a particularly strong position because what's happening is the entire ecosystem is being created. You have Sarvam AI that can deliver the tools. Then you have the establishment of communication using satellites. We had some
Yes.
huge news on that. I would love for you to talk more about that. And then you have the energy sector. So you have not only the energy to use the tools, you have the ability to communicate those tools, and then you have sovereignty to store the data as well. So this complete, almost global solution is very helpful to India, and this is exactly what is trying to be developed in Europe. Yep. And we saw this discussion on Anthropic immediately occur in Europe, and immediately the first thing that people thought about across the board is, hey, we have an ally. And
Yes.
we have an ally in India who knows how to execute, who has done this in, let's say, legacy IT and legacy hardware, who is doing this in communication hardware. And guess what? Now maybe there can be a lot of collaboration with Mistral. Maybe there can be a lot of other collaboration. So
Yes, absolutely.
I'd love for you to
Yeah,
talk about the
absolutely. In fact,
satellites.
you talked about Mistral. In fact, the Mistral AI CEO was among the first whom PM Modi met while he was there in
Right.
France. Yeah, so I think there's a two-way communication. And as you talked
Right.
about the complete cycle, I think while foundational model is great, at the same time we have to work on layers of sovereignty, and that's where we heard the Reliance Geo making an announcement of almost 10 to 15 billion dollar investment for 1600 plus low Earth orbit satellites,
Yeah.
and that has significant uh, applications right from remote area coverage uh, to defense and other areas. And in fact, it's not just an announcement. Yesterday was their annual general meeting, and they made this as a commitment. So it is one of the initiatives which is already approved by the shareholders. So that's a great way. And then if you look at it, you talked about the other elements of sovereignty. So he said that besides the semiconductor, which we have spoken so many times, now there are almost 24 startups which are being has already been invested for semiconductor designing. So based on the design linked
Wow.
incentive.
Wow.
So 24
Absolutely
of them
wow.
have already been there. Couple of them are already uh, out and much ahead compared to others. And I think the interesting thing we saw that there is a two-way engagement between the startups and the government and the other stakeholder to see how do we take this value and scale it. So they are already speaking that if we are going to do it, now how do we get integrated into Fab? Maybe we ensure that actually this becomes the heart of every chip which comes in. And maybe initially they'll need the support, but once we do that support, I think we've spoken about it. It may become almost the same journey as we had for mobile and electronics. That initially we were about 8 to 10% costlier, but with the combination of PLI plus push for incentivizing domestic, if the same PLI chips go in, we see that. And I think all of that comes back is, as you talked of, there is so much diversity. We saw one of the things which came up was as a result of all these initiatives, we saw Bangalore actually appearing as among the 15th city among the top 20 cities of the best in class startup, and it is
Ecosystems, yeah.
definitely, yeah, it's definitely a great thing to be 15th and 6th in Asia. But I think now the aspiration is, one is, how does Bangalore break in into the possibly top 10, and two, why only Bangalore? So that will also set up, I think there's a lot of active conversation happening of what can Hyderabad do, or Mumbai do, or Delhi NCR do to break in into that. And once that happens, then I think we go back to your point that the flywheel moves at an accelerated thing. So things always change slowly at first and then rapidly. So I
And
think
then
we
very
are,
rapidly.
in many of these, we are just at the inflection point.
Yeah, you're you touched on a very important point about Bangalore. Or rankings are great. You can always throw out different rankings and say, eh, Warsaw was named the best. Warsaw and Krakow were named the best cities to have remote work in. Uh, One and two, and then you have Bombay in terms of startups in India, or Bangalore in terms of startups in India. Rankings are great, but you're also seeing the proactive planning supported by the government. Yes. Because of this proactive planning in Bombay, you're seeing this huge infrastructure investment, and you're going to see new jobs being created. You're going to see the value of properties appreciate. And it was great to see that investment is happening in infrastructure for people, but businesses are also being supported with state level investments, where they are offering compute at a discounted rate in the
Yes.
Northeast, for example, to companies. And when at the state level, when at the government level, the government invests in an AI startup, like in Poland, or at the state level, when the state invests in providing compute to to startups. This is
To a fledgling startup. Yeah, that
Yeah,
is a great accelerator because every time initially they may not have the business case, or the angel funders or the startup funding may not still be convinced of their business case, right? So someone has
yeah,
to break the the cycle, right? Cash 22, and I think the government is doing it, but it will also derive the benefits.
yeah. And not only that, but you also then have huge announcement from the MNCs, like with Jabil and Adani.
Absolutely. I think means sometimes I think before we speak, I just try to think what are the focus set of things that we should talk of. Yeah, so that's a good way to focus the thought, because I think every day uh, folks announce, and I think that fundamental two-pillar approach that India, with, we talked of great consumption demand, huge GDP growth, so a lot of potential for India as a market, but use that as a foundation to also export or include it up. So we saw, I think even the existing guys, that's working even for the existing guys. So we just saw two of our European friends, BMW and Mercedes, making again ambitious announcements right next to each other. I think maybe they have a very good intelligence, so they knew something is going to appear. So both of them.
Looks like they both knew what the other one was going to talk of. They are marketing geniuses, both of them, I think.
Yes. So BMW announced that they have ambitious plan for 20,000 plus cars every year, and we had Mercedes saying, uh, for Mercedes, not just India or Asia, the global innovation hub will be here, and they gave a very evocative quote that there is a bit of India in every Mercedes, which I thought is a really great point to position. So
Yeah,
that shows the momentum, as I talked of the initial pillar, that you have the both the skill sets as well as the growth. And then you talked, as you mentioned, Adani and Adani Group and Jabil announced ambitious plan to not just build manufacture, but manufacture in the highest growing segment. And right now, with
Right.
all the GPUs and the AI data centers coming in, everyone wants to make it as compact as possible. And now they are going to design these smart, they manufacture these smart racks, which already have pre-cooling networks and the optics and all of those already bundled in. So it is not just a simple rack, it will actually be a high-end rack. And that, again, they have very clearly said that the target is not just India, the target is 2 trillion target market across the globe. I think we talked of, I think in last or the one before, that I think people are now shifting their gaze from billions to trillions, right? So 2x is the
As
new, or
as
trillion
it
is the
should
new
be.
billion.
As it should be. We should talk about trillions. We should talk about people to people movement. We should talk about uh, travel, tourism, um, and further collaboration upon collaboration in between Europe and India and all trusted partners. Yeah. Switzerland, yes, it's part of Europe, but it's not exactly inside the EU. And we
It's got a
saw
mind of its own.
it's got a mind of its own, and they have decided to
Yeah.
join the party. I think there was a great announcement for the Noida
For
airport. Yeah,
For the Noida Jewar Airport, it was announced, it was inaugurated by PM Modi some time back, but the first commercial flight just took off last week. And I think the fact that uh, it is again a big win for the larger Europe region, because Zurich has been very interested in airports and they have bid earlier also, but this is one which is, they really led it from scratch. And I think, as I wrote, it's a great start, but it is a nucleus of something much bigger abundance. So that is, I think, the big point. And if you look at it, it's starting with just an initial 1 dozen on odd flights. But the fact is, already in phase one itself, they're expecting it to be a 12 million passenger capacity. So just act as a load balancing with the Delhi airport. So everyone who stays in the north and northeastern part of the Delhi NCR, it reduces the load, and that itself is supposed to get multi-x to about 75 million passengers. And same way, the cargo is also going to be a big story. So they are looking at about 2.5 lakh metric ton as a
wow.
starting point. But again, it will be almost 5x there. And that reduces, as you talked of, that when, if the trade is high value trade is increasing with Europe and other countries, and you need to have both cargo coming in and out and with a fast turnaround, then the whole Western UP belt, which UP is trying to develop as a electronics, as a defense, all the effective cost of doing business starts reducing, which is how you start becoming competitive and your revenues and profits increase. And we talked of the air, and we go right down south, we see the
Yeah,
ships
that
getting built up. Yeah,
that was
and
a
then
that
we
was a
have,
huge announcement. Huge
yeah.
announcement. Yeah,
So HD Hyundai visited the new CM of Tamil Nadu, and in fact, they signed they already had an MOU, but they made a more committed announcement, and
very
to
good.
say that they will invest 38,000 crores worth of investment with 15,000 jobs, picking up the shipping port, but creating the complete maritime ecosystem. So I think that the fact that they are making this investment, but will actually convert one of the ports as a complete maritime ecosystem, will again have a multiple uh, upside coming into India. And I think, as you talked of, that this, the corridor will keep developing. So you have right from Korea to Zurich to EU to Germany building, and then Indian companies in turn are going abroad. So that's yeah. So leveraging the same thing. So we saw the one of the most interesting things that Keynes Semiconductor announced
Right.
uh, a tie-up for auto and automotive related chips, saying they will actually. This is a big thing because it's actually the first India developed semicon plan converting into an OSAT order. I think
Right.
both you and me and everyone else, we know the sweet sound of the first customer purchase order getting signed. So the
Right.
fact that they are getting Mitsui as well as AOI Electronics to come and use what they are already producing in Gujarat to take it to Japan, it shows that I think the initial investment, the big investment, the PLI support, and the technological complexity is actually now finally ready for fruition. So I think the India to the world and the world to the India corridor is up and running.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's all about resilience, 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 resilience. And this idea all ties back into tech sovereignty because you are
Absolutely.
completely de-risking and diversifying your supply chain. You are now trusting a partner that prefers growth and peace over anything. This is the Indian
Yeah.
civilization for the past. Historians always say 7,000 years. I like to say 70,000 years. But this
Actually,
is a
7,000 is more strongly documented. Before
yeah,
that, everyone does not have that access in the mainstream.
correct, correct. And so, this is a civilization that wants just peace and abundance for everybody. And once this corridor is developed, once you have tech diversity, once you have tech sovereignty, it is all about resilience, resilience, resilience.
So Bharat and world for the win.
Bharat and world for the win.
We
The world, the entire world for the win. And you know, I loved this statement and that PM Modi gave at the G7 that we live in a time where resources are not a problem. Yeah,
absolutely.
resources are absolutely not a problem. And you are seeing this in India. You're seeing the investments being made.
Absolutely. And I think, as we talked of earlier, also a lot of investment is being made, which in turn actually translates to capability to then convert it into revenue opportunity, business opportunities, and then you also work on it. In fact, one of the things maybe we can pick up among the last is I think again India is playing a very smart two-wheel strategy, where on one end it is actually investing in infrastructure to ensure, as you talked of, whether it's the sovereignty, whether it is the new age manufacturing, space tech, deep tech, all of that, logistics, all of that is eased out. So it's easy for you to operate and then you do it. And on the other
Less
hand,
friction. Less
yeah,
friction.
Absolutely. Make it as frictionless, which is the true ease of doing business. Because as you talked of, I think now the EODB has, I think, last couple of years just dropped doing the ranking. But it goes back to your point that it is not about ranking. It is about what happens when a company or when a customer lands up in the real world scenario. Is it easy for them or not? Doesn't matter what is the
The rank.
EODB
Yeah.
rank. So I think that's where a very good play we are seeing, where on one end a significant amount of infra investment, and on the other hand, as we will have semiconductors, EVs, electronics, uh, batteries, a lot renewable energies. You need to have a continuity in the rare earth and critical mineral resources
Yes.
longevity. So I
Yes,
think that's
absolutely.
a demand side and supply side which is playing. So I think just from an enabling perspective, we saw that in fact one of the numbers which came up which struck me was out of the government's public capex investment in infra for which they had committed, at least 17%, 1.44 lakh crore was already done in the 60 days.
Right, right,
Yeah. So
right,
I think that shows that, yeah, volatility will be there, uncertainty is there, but you keep building and you can keep moving out. And similarly, I think you talked about make it frictionless. I think there's an investment plan for almost 20,000 crores in 6 PPP projects for railways to start connecting the domestic mineral and energy hubs to the
right,
ports. So things can move in and out. And even from a energy perspective, as all of it starts growing, I think there's a clear mandate to scale up renewables energy, because that will be the only way to you really scale it up. So I think there was a mandate
correct,
and a review last week where I think the current data center and AI related energy is supposed to go up to 10x from 1.8 gigawatts to 18 gigawatts in 2032. And I think the center and the states have sat down, said, let's pick up the priority 32 sites in 12 states, and we need to get things done. And I think
right,
that's the great part on the infrastructure and energy. And going back, I think again we saw so many tie-ups while G7. One of the big takeaways we saw was there was a there was a commitment to get into a critical minerals uh, tie-up amongst all the extended G7 and the invited folks, and they're already putting in the current infrastructure. So they're putting in, they were close to about 195 projects worth 64 billion euros, which are at various stages of investment. So they are coming in. Sometime back we had covered ADB's committing a $70 billion to
correct, correct.
do it. We saw a three-way announcement between Japan, India, and Australia. Japan is having its moment of reality with China, and they said, okay, we are facing a tough situation, fine, but we need to have a long-term perspective. So they're getting trying to have a tie-up with Australia, which is rich in rare earths, and then you have India, which is through National Critical Mission and other initiatives is trying to build on processing. So that's like the new Indo-Pacific, which is built in. And India is realizing that we need to build more capabilities. So besides the existing ones, just last week, there's again a proposal coming for a 12,000 crore, almost 1.4, $1.5 billion PLI for ensuring building the components for batteries. So you don't,
Wow.
because then again, otherwise, if you just build the batteries, it goes back that you are trying to import the component and just put a wrapper. So now I think we are moving from the previous stage to the next stage of evolution, where the PLI will only be focused for the components related to cathode, anode components related to copper foil, so that you really build those components here because you're tying it up. And I think while we have a tie-up literally and figuratively from Morocco to Moscow, I think
Yeah,
we are building the platform to do that.
yeah. And the one thing to keep in mind always is that one day there will be stability around the world. One day, whatever we are facing right now will come to pass. And if we have planned for that in Europe, in Asia Pacific, in India, if businesses, if MNCs, if even small businesses have planned for that, that there will be a period of time where, it's almost like a peace dividend. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you get an exponential return. But if you have a mindset of negativity right now, where you are not investing this 1.5 billion or this 350
Or I will
million for
wait
the
for things to stabilize and
life,
then do
yeah,
it.
it's not going to work out. You will literally and figuratively miss the boat, because if the indication is clear, there is resilience, there is a clear strength in the global economy, regardless of what is happening, then you shouldn't approach it with a mindset of negativity. I like to say mindset is everything. Focus on the positive. There is so much positive to focus on. And I'd love to hear what advice would you give to a small manufacturer right now in India or Europe, a mid-sized manufacturer. What advice would you give them? Let's say they are in the field of industrial components.
Sure. I think that's a great question, and I think how any such businesses should really look at is twofold. One is what is their long-term strategy? So they should be clear which segment they are playing and what is the
Correct.
evolution of that segment, because ultimately is the not just who will be their clients, but who's their client to client, because
Correct.
because their clients will expand. So start looking at two levels of trend, and from their perspective, I would put it very simple: that make your vision, have a long-term vision to which you stay true to. But in the short term, be very nimble and opportunistic to collect the quarterly and the yearly purchase orders. So do what
Correct.
is required to keep the revenue going, to get the salaries for your customers, to ensure you are treating your vendors well, and the fact that if you have created that abundance during these volatile times to for all your stakeholders. Remember, all of them are going to back you up when things take
Mm,
off. So
correct.
invest now, and you will collect a multi-x return in terms of peace dividend and the principal appreciation.
Correct. Wow. What an amazing thought to have. I absolutely agree and absolutely love it. It's refreshing to see this kind of approach. And I would sincerely wish that a lot of people follow it. And that's a great place, I think, Ing, for this episode, to end things. And I think it's a positive note. We hope that people have derived a lot of information from episode number 6, and we'll be back next week with episode 7. We're still trying to work out on our little Spotify account, and hopefully it'll be sorted out soon.
Sure, absolutely. So I think 6 episodes done before we knew, and many more to
Many more
follow.
to come.
So I think it's just appropriate that we named it as the Indus podcast, because I think one common theme across all of them is there's a new Indus route of abundance which is being built.